I will now shortly present our book on urban waters in the Americas. So, together with UNESCO, we published just recently, in the month of March, a book directed to urban waters and the challenges of these urban waters in the Americas. From the perspective of IANAS, from the Academies of Science of the 21 countries that participated. It was a very important publication because it not only included different certain regions of the Americas, but all regions from North America, the Caribbean, Mexico, and Central America and South America. There was participation in the chapters from 20 countries, as you can see, from Argentina to Venezuela. And one of the highlights of the book is that we had the participation of 120 authors, all professionals in water sciences with different specialities. So this is one of the unique things about this book, that we were able to have the collaboration of so many specialists to write this important publication. The organization was promoted by an editorial committee, and we worked very hard on the revision. The book was published both in English and in Spanish to make it more accessible to everyone in the Americas. This book was published, as I told you, in collaboration with UNESCO, and we also had support from the Global Water Partnership in some of the chapters, especially in Central America, and the Global Network of Science Academies. As I mentioned, the special characteristics is that we had a very wide geographical representation, each with different water resource characteristics and diverse levels of development. That means that there are many different suggestions for management of the water resources in these different countries. As you all know, the importance of urban waters, and this is why we selected to concentrate on this theme, as more as 60% of the world population now lives in cities. Latin America, or the Americas, is special because they have the highest urbanization in globally, more than 80%. And of course, with urbanization goes hand in hand that the water systems play a very important role in the development in cities and also in the deposition of waste. So this is just shortly to show you the degree of urbanization in all the countries that participated in the book. Most of them are more than 80%, and there are some countries somewhat below. But what I wanted to emphasize with this slide is that usually you can see the tendency that developing countries still have a higher urbanization rate as developed countries in the last decade. These are just some of the examples that are illustrated in the book. The urbanization that you can see from Buenos Aires in Argentina, also from Panama, from the year 1979 to 2009. It was very important for us to analyze, too, the origins of the urban areas. These are some of the important citations from one was from the chapter of Uruguay, that water, of course, as we know, plays a very important role in the formation of cities, being both a source for use of the population, for consume, but also for the disposition of waste. What we have noticed in most of the countries, especially the developing countries, since the 1960s, there has been an irregular increase in sectors, peri-urban areas, which has caused a lot of problems with the management of water resources. This comes mainly due to the failure to integrate water in the original design of the urban growth and urban solutions. Some of the special challenges of urbanization and the management of water. Of course, as you know, urbanization concentrates the competition for the use of water in a small space in the cities. But this allows for efficiencies in water use, but also gives us special problems and demands associated with water quality, water transport, and the maintenance and management of excess water from storm events, as we have seen in the last 5 years with the extreme hydrological events. And we will listen to a very important example here in the United States about the California drought. The topics of the book, very quickly, the problems that were imposed by the urbanization processes on water resources, water supply services in the urban areas, what is the percentage of coverage, what problems are there, the treatment of wastewater, and of course, water and health is one of the topics that we are noticing in the last decade that has become more associated and more important. And exactly the same for the variability and change in climate and the consequences for water resources in the cities. Of course, every country had special themes that were specific for these countries. I just wanted to show you this. I won't mention any at this time, but they're just for a few, the extreme climate events in the city of Guatemala, special problems of water supply on islands of Grenada and Cuba, and many more. To go over fastly what we had for the main conclusions in the different chapters of the book, the problems, the common problems you saw with water resources caused by the urbanization processes were, as I mentioned, the surrounding urban areas, the coverage of water, also the sanitary conditions, and the treatment possibilities in peripheral areas of the cities. These are some of the most prominent problems that we found. I won't go into them all, but one of the problems I would like to mention that we noticed in most of the cities is that the management of water resources did not originate actually in the watersheds around the cities. This is very important. It causes problems of water quality, but mostly also water quantity with drainage problems inside of the cities that comes from the surrounding watershed. To the water supply services, actually in the Americas, we have a very good coverage of over 95% in urban areas, but there are special problems mostly in the developing countries with the continuity of services, which means that people have to preserve water inside of their houses, and this obviously causes health problems. Also, there are many problems with the distribution system, with ruptures in most cities of Latin America, and the lack of renovations of these systems. This is just an example in the city of Managua, where they have a scheme where in each district they have different times for the water supply. And as I mentioned, this is a cause for many health problems. In all cities of South America, Central America, and the Caribbean islands are affected, as I mentioned, by these informal growths of peri-urban areas and where you have the highest rate of waterborne diseases. One of the Millennium Development Goals is also on water sanitation. This is one of the problems in Latin America. They are not on track to reach the Millennium Development Goals, and as to be noted again, this causes many health problems. Just a small note, the improved sanitation coverage in most countries does not always mean immediately that there is no contamination that is occurring to the water resources. And here we have some examples from the Dominican Republic and in Central America where you have instruments for sanitation, but they are contaminating other surface waters or groundwater. The coverage in South America of sewage systems is around 80%, but a high percentage of these systems still are being released into rivers and the ocean without treatment. In Central America, you have the same situation where you have, in most countries, systems of oxidation lagoons, which are effective, but they are also discharged into surface water bodies, which cause eutrophication in these water bodies. The water and health, as I mentioned, recently in Central America and some South American countries, there is a lot increasing problems with chikungunya. Last year at our meeting, we had a presentation about chikungunya in the Caribbean areas, where they had not reached actually Latin America with such intensity, but now, for example, in Nicaragua and in Honduras, we have very high rates of chikungunya. The same for the problems with malaria and dengue, but are somewhat less prominent as the actual problem of chikungunya. In the last decade, there has been an improvement in Latin America and the Caribbean countries. We do have model countries, for example, Chile, which has 100% coverage of their sanitation system. Just a few examples of some of the developments of dengue in the cities. This is for the cities of Latin America. One is for Nicaragua, the other is for Venezuela. And as we come to climate change, which all of us have experienced, some of the examples of floods in the cities of Argentina. Our cities are under pressure due to extreme events, not only floods, but also droughts. And there have been extreme changes in the precipitation patterns, which, accompanied by all the changes in soil use, is causing a lot of sedimentation problems, and the drainage system of most of the cities in Latin America are not adequate for the actual climate change situation. This is just one of the examples for the study done in Costa Rica of climate change in Central America. And examples which we will hear later, an example in the United States of droughts in the cities of the Americas. As I said before, there are a lot of problems with the drainage systems. And some countries are now working on improvement systems for their drainage systems. That example was from Montevideo, Uruguay. Other factors that are mentioned in the book, which are very important, are the institutional and legal aspects in these countries. Most countries do have special water laws and special institutions, but their effectivity has not yet been, the strength of their institutional capacity is not so that they are being really effective in the management of water up to this time. Just a few characteristics that are different. South America, we notice most of the water sources are from surface waters, but also suffering eutrophication processes. And in Central America, we have a big dominance of water sources from groundwater. Most countries are conscious that the management of water in cities has not been done in a holistic way. This is one of the proposals in the book, and we had a special chapter from the city of Toronto, which has a very special case study about the urban water management in the city of Toronto and the way that they have organized it in their institutional organization, where they have all the components of the water cycle combined in one management institution. These are the principal conclusions and recommendations. I will just highlight some of them. Of course, it's important to improve capacities for the planning of integral urbanization, taking into consideration water resources, improve the education and technical capacity for water sanitation and hygiene. And the last conclusion, strengthen, as I mentioned, the national water authorities need to be institutionally strengthened in their capacity to manage water resources along with the academia. and improve one of the most important things that we noticed in the book, as that the water management needs to be seen and started from the watersheds surrounding the urban areas. Thank you very much.